Hello everyone, it's me again. Today I will recap the movie Enola Holmes 2. This beautiful young lady is actually a female detective. Not only that, Enola is also the younger sister of the detective Sherlock Holmes. Possessing superior genes, and a talented mind that is not inferior to her brother's, Enola successfully solved a difficult case. Feeling that her time had come, she invested in an expensive office to affirm her position and talent. However, just starting out, she encountered many troubles because her young age and the male-dominated era overshadowed her talent. Customers often looked at her suspiciously, and if anyone enthusiasm, it was only to ask Sherlock Holmes for help. Time passed, and she did not receive any business. In the end, she failed, not even having enough capital to maintain the premises. That night, as she was packing her things, a little girl named Bessie came in, asking her to help find her missing sister, Sarah. Enola immediately agreed, and the two went to the girl's house, which was a rundown place near the docks. While they were talking, May, a co-worker of the two sisters, came home, but she was annoyed when she learned that they were looking for Sarah. Enola didn't mind and continued to look for more clues, finding a burnt piece of paper left, with the date 12/3 written on it. She asked the two if they had any impressions of this day, but May didn't want to cooperate, and ignored them. Bessie said that her sister was very pretty, had blue eyes, and was a kind person. The three of them worked at the match factory. The day before she disappeared, Sarah had an argument with her superior, because he suspected her of stealing goods. The next day, Enola pretended to be a worker, and went to the match factory with Bessie. The place was experiencing a deadly typhus epidemic, so the security guard had to do a quick test on everyone before letting them in. When she arrived at work, her job was to pack matches into boxes, but because she was clumsy, she dropped quite a few matches, and was scolded by the manager. This was also the person who had argued with Sarah before she went missing, so Enola wanted to go to the office to investigate further. She remembered a trap she used to play when she was young, applied it to the available items in the factory, and successfully knocked over the entire box of matches. While the manager was bewildered, she sneaked upstairs. She found a box of red matches, but this place was producing white matches. She opened the time book and found that a few pages were missing, with a red hair left in it. So Sarah might have really stolen a few pages. Meanwhile, she accidentally overheard a conversation between the director and his son, along with the finance minister Charles. His son William said that a few pages of their books were missing, and the culprit had not been found yet. Charles then sent his secretary Mira to continue investigating the case. Outside, Bessie saw the managers changing shifts, and Enola had not returned yet, which made her very worried. But very quickly, Enola returned, as if nothing had happened. That afternoon, after work, through Bessie's story, Enola learned that Sarah and May had also worked as dancers at the Paragon Theater, so she went there, bribed a little money, and was allowed in. The theater was extremely bustling, and the people who came to watch the performance were all from the upper class. Enola went inside to look for May, but could not find her. Only a lipstick, similar to the one Sarah used. Suddenly, May rushed out, put a knife to Enola's neck, and asked her why she was following her. But Enola quickly turned the situation around, forcing May into a corner. At this time, theater owner appeared, dispersing the crowd. Enola had no choice but to let May go. But she didn't go back home. Instead, she wanted to see Sarah's dressing table, so she had to give him another coin. There, Enola found a letter. He said Sarah had recently dated a rich young master. On the way, Enola opened it to read, and saw that it was just a cheesy love letter, with a poppy printed at the bottom. Perhaps that was the identity of the young master. At this time, Enola walked into a deserted street, when suddenly behind her was the sound of a wooden stick hitting the road. She turned around, but there was no one. She was worried that someone was following her. Enola hurriedly ran out of the dark alley. She found her brother Sherlock, drunk and being thrown out of the pub. He was upset because he was stuck on an investigation. Enola had no choice but to take him home to 221B Baker Street. After struggling to get him inside, she was surprised to see that the room was as messy as a garbage dump. She immediately started to clean it up, making it very tidy. Unexpectedly, instead of being thanked, her brother was furious because she had changed the position of everything, which messed up all his clues. His way of working was very different. He even guessed at a glance that Enola had worked at the match factory just by observing her black fingernails, which were traces of oxidized phosphorus. He also advised his sister not to let emotions interfere with work, warning that it could easily lead to a bad outcome. Enola listened to his complaints make her head hurt, so she took a cake and left for the park. She ate breakfast and angry by herself. At that moment, Tewkesbury, a handsome and kind young nobleman, approached her. He mentioned that he had sent letters to Enola many times, but she had not replied. She was embarrassed, and made the excuse that she was very busy and couldn't talk. He thought she didn't like him, so he left sadly. Enola was also heartbroken, because only a fool would not like a handsome man, but she loved her career more. Therefore, Enola took out the letter to read again. She compared it with a piece of paper found at Sarah's house, and realized it was a code leading to the address 28 Whitechapel. Enola immediately went there. Strangely, the house was not locked, so she decided to push the door open. Unexpectedly, she saw May dying on the bed, with a dagger in her chest. May only had time to touch her pocket before she died. Enola took out a song from May's pocket, it titled, "The Truth of the Gods." Before she could think of anything, Inspector Lestrade burst in. Enola quickly hid the paper, and claimed she knew nothing and was innocent. He seemed skeptical of her words. At that moment, there was suddenly the sound of a stick tapping on the floor outside, like the sound she had heard watching her last night. Then Grail came in, asking what was going on. When he learned that Enola was investigating Sarah's disappearance, he said that Sarah was just stealing and running away. He bluntly blamed Enola. All the evidence at the scene was against her. It seemed she had failed in her career and was about to go to jail. At this moment, she realized she had fallen into a trap. Enola decided him in the groin by knee, then jumped out the window, rolled down the roof, and ran for her life. Sooner or later, the news of Enola becoming a murder suspect spread throughout the city, so she had no choice but to go to her brother. Lestrade was smart enough to go to Sherlock's house, but he left empty-handed because Enola had slipped and was hanging herself out of the window. She quickly asked her downstairs neighbor for help. They exchanged clothes, and he was very pleased with her dress. Sherlock saw off the guests, pulled up the sign, and met his sister. Both of them were in a mess by work. He was still having a headache because of the blackmail case against government officials, as he couldn't find the owner of the deposit accounts, while she couldn't solve her case, also branded a murderer. At this time, Enola gave Sherlock the music sheet, thinking it was a clue to finding Sarah. Her brother immediately helped her play the piece, but it was torture to her ears. The problem wasn't Sherlock's playing, but because it wasn't a piece of music, he decided to go out and find more evidence to clear his sister's name. Meanwhile, Enola saw a newspaper on the table with information about the ball organized by the Lion family. She suddenly realized that the piece of paper picked up at Sarah's house not only had the date, but also the address of Henry, the owner of the match factory, which was also the location of the ball. Thinking that Sarah's lover would appear there, Enola bought herself a mask to attend the party. There she saw Grails and Mira. Enola wanted to approach William to investigate further, but he refused. She was sad, and went upstairs to enjoy the view. Mira suddenly appeared, and gave her some pointers. She had no experience with parties, and that dancing required using a fan to signal her partner, and was kind enough to give her her own fan. Enola immediately tried fanning, but she didn't expect it to actually work. A young master came to her, which scared her. She could only pretend that she was just fanning herself to cool off. At this time, she accidentally discovered that Tewkesbury was also there. So, she went to ask him to teach her how to dance. The two of them practiced dancing in the women's restroom, until someone knocked on the door. He quickly gave her a dance card and left first. After that, she went to find William. Unexpectedly, she saw a beautiful lady coming out of his room. After all, it was just for work, so Enola didn't hesitate to run straight in and invite him to dance with her. The guy seemed to have just had a fight with his girlfriend, so was upset, and was bothered by Enola, so he agreed. After signing the last waltz, she happily took it out to compare with the letter sent to Sarah, which was exactly his handwriting. At this moment, she saw her crush surrounded by beauties. The lady from earlier glanced at him, and immediately knew that the two of them had feelings for each other, so she approached Tewkesbury and invited him to dance the last waltz with her. That's why there was this strange layout. Enola could only swallow her anger and focus on getting information from William. Knowing that she was investigating Sarah's disappearance, he immediately advised her to stop. Seeing that there were too many eyes and ears in this place, William made an appointment to meet her after the party. In another development, Sherlock was busy researching at home. After putting the letters together, he got a challenge. "Nice to meet you, Sherlock." This shows that this blackmailer is not only smart, but also has a sarcastic streak. He cleverly hides his name behind numbers. Sherlock quickly deciphers it, and finds the name Moriarty. At midnight, Enola goes to the library, as promised to William, unexpectedly meeting Tewkesbury. When he learns that she is waiting for another man, he becomes jealous. Enola also digs up the story, of him dancing with another girl in front of her. William just entered and saw a third person. He is very surprised. Suddenly the police burst in, arresting Enola. She quickly sends the music sheet to Tewkesbury, before being taken away. Grail appears in the prison, coaxing her to reveal Sarah's whereabouts, saying that only he can protect her. Of course she can't believe it. She exposes him for killing May and blaming her. He loses his temper and threatens by Bessie. However, Enola really doesn't know where Sarah is. The news of his sister's arrest quickly reached Sherlock. He immediately went to see Grail. He said he had full evidence of Enola's murder, but Sherlock also replied he had been to the scene. The door had traces of being broken, and the floor had the shoe prints of 3 men before his sister arrived. Unexpectedly, Grail was very skilled this time. He directly used new technology, showing that Enola's fingerprints were on the murder weapon. This was something that could not be helped by deduction, so Sherlock sought out a woman named Edith for help. Enola was in prison, almost abused by her fellow inmates. Suddenly, the wall exploded. Edith appeared, and Enola broke out of the prison. She got into the carriage and met her mother. The two happily hugged each other. Behind, the guards were still chasing. Eudora was chatting with her daughter, while lighting a homemade firecracker and throwing it out. They were blinded by the smoke, and when they looked back, they had lost sight of her. But after a while, they discovered her. The two carriages collided violently. Eudora remained calm, took another firecracker, and passed it to Enola to throw at the police car, this time damaging their carriage. But Grail did not give up, galloped after them again. He pulled out his gun and fired at Edith's carriage. Seeing that he was about to get close, she quickly whipped him, causing him to drop his gun. Real, furious, pulled out a wooden stake and threw it at the carriage wheels, causing the carriage to lose momentum and plunge into the woods. Edith quickly jumped out of the way, while Enola and her mother fell down. The police immediately surrounded the 3 of them, but their biggest mistake was underestimating women. As a result, they were knocked down by the 3 of them. Grail attacked Enola, but Eudora and Edith worked together to capture him. Enola to knock him out. She then planted a bomb in the carriage and escaped. He stood in the fire, furious. Eudora advised her daughter to find more allies in the fight, then sent her home. She went to find Bessie at home, and accidentally discovered 2 strange potted plants in the house. She went closer to see, and found that the dead potted plant contained white matches, while the green pot next to it contained red matches. She quickly understood that May and Sarah had done this experiment. They also put insects in 2 glass jars, containing red matches and white matches. The results showed that the white matches contained toxic substances. After stringing together the events, it showed that, since the factory switched to making white matches, typhus broke out. Grails and accomplices carefully covered their noses when passing by the factory. Enola decided to go to Tewkesbury's house. She opened her heart and told him the whole story. At this time, someone came outside. She hid inside and saw that it was Cicely. Because of the waves of jealousy, she did not hear what they said. When the girl returned, he explained that she had come to him for help, specifically to change the factory's rules, because Cicely was holding a shocking secret. Only then did Enola remember Bessie's description of her sister, realizing that Cicely was the missing Sarah. She quickly chased Sarah out, but she had already left. At this time, Enola remembered the Viscount's fanning action at the ball, and asked what it meant. He bluntly said that, "I love you." And she remembered that Sarah had also done the same action to William. The 2 of them were a couple, planning to expose the factory's crimes. Immediately, the 2 went to the factory. She broke in, but she was not alone in this place. She was so scared, until she sees her brother, who's swinging a hammer. The 2 brothers meet by chance, to find evidence, but unexpectedly found a cold corpse. The victim was William. Sherlock suspected that Charles and Henry had a secret contract about bribery to produce white matches. When they knew that William wanted to expose the truth, they killed him to cover up the clues. But the scene here seemed to be staged to blame Grail, which reminded Sherlock of Moriarty. At this time, Enola accidentally saw the piece of paper in William's hand. She quickly joined it into May's music sheet and deciphered an address. On the way there, Tewkesbury asked her to teach him how to fight. She really punched her lover's handsome face, mercilessly, but then she compensated with a kiss. The address led to the Paragon Theater. Here, they also met Sarah. She handed over evidence exposing Charles and Henry's greed and inhumanity. For money, they ignored the safety of the workers, used toxic white phosphorus, and caused an epidemic that killed hundreds of girls. But at this time, Sherlock had to give her the bad news. Knowing that her lover had died, she was extremely heartbroken. Grail captured Bessie to threaten them to hand over the evidence. Bessie quickly bit his hand, and Sherlock took the opportunity to attack the police. Tewkesbury also fought without retreating. While Grail chased Enola upstairs, she ran to a dead end and was stabbed by him, but it turned out to be a performance knife. Therefore, she did not die, continuously punched him back. The bad guy used an iron hook to attack, hitting Enola in the head. She fell onto the scaffolding. While she almost was unconscious, Enola's brain was still working at full capacity, applying theory to practice. She rolled to the ground and took Grail down with the iron hook. Just then, Charles entered. He accused Sarah of stealing confidential documents to blackmail him. The police were about to take her away, but Sherlock stepped forward and said that William was the one who stole the documents. The blackmailer was Moriarty, who was also Mira Troy. Because William was involved, her blackmail plan went wrong, so Mira hired Grail to retrieve the evidence. Things gradually got out of control because of Enola's appearance, but her main purpose was not money. Mira just felt that her intelligence was a waste. In this era of male chauvinism, she needed to do something, to be recognized by the world. So she decided to target those stupid and greedy officials. In the end, Mira was handcuffed, but she showed no fear, and told Sherlock that, just wait. While everyone was celebrating the victory, Charles burned the contract between himself and the match factory. Although everyone was safe and sound, there was no more evidence to be released. Thus, the unfortunate female workers would still have to face death every day. Of course, Enola did not let the crime go unpunished. The next day, she and Sarah went to the factory. She cleared the way for Sarah to stand on the podium and declare the truth. There was no rash epidemic. It was all due to their daily exposure to toxic white phosphorus. People were getting closer to death every day. After hearing this, everyone was both scared and indignant, immediately agreed to follow Enola's group to quit their jobs and walk out. Charles did not know that Enola's lover was a viscount, and he was soon imprisoned. She and Tewkesbury also officially became a couple. Sherlock also received news that Mira had escaped from prison, and he seemed very interested in this girl. It seems that she will be a strong opponent in his near future. The movie ends here. Besides the tight reasoning and surprising decisions, Enola Holmes also shows her femininity. This also marks the first female strike, opening a new era for women. Labor treatment is no longer as discriminatory as before, and as a result, the income of female workers has completely improved. Thank you very much for your support, which has allowed the channel to develop as it has today. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and comment about this movie. Especially, please subscribe to the channel to follow my movie recap. See you again, my dear friends.